Warning: the following video may have language that some viewers may find offensive, and others are already offended. Viewer discretion is advised, but not really. No animals were hurt in the making of this 4-hour feature film.
Okay. I grew up small town. My dad was a cop in Mitchell, and now we're talking like very early 70s. Really different lifestyle.
Absolutely would be.
I grew up in the small town policing, so that like Elmer, and that's where I'd want to be. Even St. Thomas is not too bad, but that's getting more city like. Yeah. London, if I was going into it today, I don't think I could do city.
It was a culture shock for me.
Yeah.
When you take this 19-year-old kid out of Berks Falls, Ontario, with a population of 1,000 people, where everyone pretty much knows everyone, where everyone goes to Tony's coffee shop.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you're like, yeah, right. I'd still be there if that was the case.
That's true. Yeah.
And now you're put into this situation where people think nothing of using violence on you if you given the opportunity.
Yeah.
Like my first real awakening was getting slapped through the bars after putting someone in, right? Like, because the cadets were always the last one to lock the door. This guy reached through, slapped me across the face. I had, if I had days on the job, that was quite a shock for me. I never would thought humans would be mean like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I know that sounds naive.
I know.
And it was.
You're just doing your job. I mean, it's not personal. It's
exactly.
Yeah.
And
so they do that.
Imagine the change in my brain even at that point in my career. And the brain doesn't stop developing until around 25 years old.
Yeah.
Now you have a 19-year-old who was a constable on the street at 21. First call on Christmas Eve came in as a murder. Thank goodness it didn't turn out to be one, but our response is it's our first reaction to information that imprints. And my expectations of policing were not what I thought coming from a small town, but I was in it.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. That was I had a young family now. I was in it. That was my job.
Did you find the city policing, compared to, let's leave small town out of it, so Elmer, Mitchell, which Mitchell now is OPP, the town was disbanded, but do you find big city policing is more military style? So are they like the roll call, the drills, do they do anything that way that you find it more?
No, it's pretty... I'll use paramilitary for lack of a better term, I think was a little bit more pronounced when I started in 2000.
Okay.
But still, they went away from it fairly quickly, where there used to be what we would call stand-up parades, and we would make, like, it was an equipment check, really. Okay. Do you have everything you need today to do your job? And as a supervisor, that makes a lot of sense. Even in any factory job, right? Not even something where you might have to use force on another person. This is like, do you have all your equipment right now? But people started, I don't like that. They didn't like the discipline of it. Shoes had to be shine. No, not anymore. There's none of that.
Okay. Yeah.
If that happens, it's a personal pride, and having once taught use of force, if you don't look good, you're statistically more likely to get into use of force encounters.
Okay.
Right? It's have you seen Napoleon Dynamite?
No,
that's too bad.
No.
So I won't go on that joke.
Okay.
But like, you're not gonna, if someone looks like they're put together, their uniform looks good, they have they've kept themselves well, they're in shape, their boots are shone, like there's kind of an instant respect.
Okay.
Right. So
right.
At the beginning, there was a lot of the promotion of that, and now outside of police college, I'm not sure a lot of police services still employ that positive discipline.
Okay.
Discipline's not a bad word. It's not a four-letter word, but I think a lot of people treat it as such.
I've watched even the uniforms, how they've changed over the years.
Yeah.
From the standard uniform to greens to like there's gray uniforms, there's camouflage uniforms, there's just straight clothes,
Yeah, those ones, usually
changing.
those belong to more of the emergency response.
So you got like your tac squad, your
those that are there for more elevated response.
Yeah.
You still see your street level officer in the regular dark blue, red stripe.
Even
pants.
canine, I see a lot now is changing more to greens and.
Yeah, and it makes sense because they have to be less visible sometimes.
Yeah.
But it does look very military. So to your point, I'll say yes to as far as outward appearance. There is a little bit more for some. Yeah.
Okay. I also noticed. I remember a long time ago when I was up in Grand Bend, but they were talking about when police went to the black shirts.
Right.
They all used to be in the blue, way back in the day. And when my dad was an officer, it was all blue shirts, and OPP were blue, and they went to black. And then there was talk about one time about OPP with the auxiliary program switching them to black shirts. Also, would still have the vest with auxiliary because they didn't want the officer centered out by, if there was an auxiliary and an officer side by side, you can easily tell who was the cop, who was the auxiliary by just the shirt color. You didn't even have to look right up, right? So they wanted to standardize that, so it was visually you couldn't really tell unless you walked right up to them. But they never did.
No,
it never did.
I don't think
happen.
that happened.
No, it never did. So anyway. Let's carry on because, oh my God, we're almost at an hour here already.
Wow.
That's how fast this goes. But I think what I want to carry on because we got a lot to talk about, and I'll split this into a 2-part series, and we can do it that way. But
yeah, I've got time. So
you've come back. Oh, awesome. Okay, that was my next question. Have you got anything going on there? But let's talk about rigs.
Absolutely, we can.
All right, because rigs is a very important. We all hear about service dogs, and we see people. I see elderly people, like you've got sightseeing dogs. You've got all kinds of. There's dogs for diabetics that can sense glucose changes in blood and different things. Epilepsy,
dogs.
yes. Yeah. So, how did rigs come into your life? And when he did, what was your first impression of him?
Yeah, so I grew up with dogs in my small towns that we lived in, but they were always outside dogs.
Yeah.
Very rarely did we ever see them in the house unless it was a bit too cold. They'd be in the garage or wherever. So I didn't really like dogs. My mother-in-law had dogs, so they were always these little tiny things that not a fan. Like, to each their own, and they're just didn't identify with it. So getting a dog, when I eventually came up with that idea that it would help, it blew my wife's mind because she knew how I felt about dogs in general. But I had gone to one of those PTSD retreats and interacted with 2 veterans that had service dogs. And I saw what it was doing for them. I talked to them. I was very curious about the services that the dogs provided as a tool, as a medical aid. And what those dogs could do, I knew would help transform my life, which a big thing was that isolation, not engaging in activities, not going outside of where I felt safe. So some of the services that these dogs will do as medical devices are like blocking. I wouldn't go into Tim Hortons to get a coffee or tea, even though I wanted one, because the hypervigilance that I suffer as a symptom of my PTSD, that constant awareness, I wouldn't want to stand in line because if people were behind me, it sets that off, and it's very uncomfortable.
What did it do? What did it do to you? Like, would your heart start racing?
Yeah,
what were
it feels very uncomfortable.
It
could start to sweat. It just becomes a very uncomfortable situation, despite the fact that I know, like, if I was to look at it logically, I'm safe. Like, this person behind me is not going to hurt me, right? But your amygdala response, so that part of your brain that just reacts to stimulus without your permission, has been affected by trauma. So it's quite involuntary.
Okay.
So using a dog, I can put Riggs behind me or beside me facing back. And some of that hypervigilance goes away because I have him to alert me prior to somebody just showing up behind me. Right? If I know it's happening, I'm usually okay, but it's those surprises or the loud sudden noise. He can interrupt that if I'm taking too long to recover. Because I know, again, I'm factually safe, but my body will go through its systems.
Okay.
If I'm having panic issues or anxiety issues, he has a way of interrupting that. Some veterans will use it for nightmare interruption. So if part of their symptoms are constant or persistent nightmares, and they present in a certain way, the dogs are trained to cue off of how they present their nightmares, and then they'll wake them up and interrupt them so that isn't a prolonged experience for them. Right. And hopefully they can get back to sleep.
The dog pulls them back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, there's so many other things that they can do, and that's why they come with a nearly $30,000 price tag. Riggs, the current one that is here under the table, he's actually my third attempt. It's not a science. It's very... the trainers that go out and pick dogs, if they have the luxury of being able to pick the actual dog for temperament, they do their best. There's lots of failures. The first dog was actually named Rigby. That's how my current Riggs has his name. We didn't bond. He was too timid and was afraid of me. So I was given another dog. That dog was named Magnus. And unfortunately, he bit a few people, my son, my sister-in-law, another vet at the Operational Stress Injury Clinic. And so this wasn't a good match.
No.
And a failure.
Okay.
So then I was actually quite discouraged. I figured this isn't for me. I'm not going to be a service dog handler. Like, if it's not going to work, it's not going to work, and I need to move on. So I go back to the trainer, and she then brings me my current dog, Riggs. And there was a lot of, I don't want to call it resentment at first, but I didn't have a whole lot of trust in what the process was looking like and that he was going to work for me. I took him home just basically hoping that something might happen and having no real expectations. My family took to him immediately. I didn't see what they saw right away. He's the handsomest of dogs. He's such a good-looking boy and such well-tempered, easy to fall in love with. But I held a lot of resentment to the process for a long time, probably weeks.
Something that just I gotta ask this because I don't know. Okay, we know Nash.
Yes.
The little boy. He's 7?
No, I think he's a bit older than that.
Is he? I can't remember now.
Yeah, 9 or 10.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I may have had a birthday.
He may. Yeah. I know I did a little video a little while ago about him and fundraising over in Dorchester. We were over there for. He presented the check to the Legion, the District A convention.
That's he's an incredible kid.
So this boy has fallen in love with service dogs for veterans.
Yes. And
he does all these quarter auctions. He builds these 3D printer things and he sells them all. And he just, this is him. Like he loves. I did a video with him. I did an interview with him. And then I ran a story that was, it had some soldiers and stuff on it. Did you ever do a video or anything where you were in a mall with Riggs? With talking about
probably
because it just hit me now. I got to go back and watch that because I think you were in that video. You may have
possibly
been. You may have been, and I inserted it into Nash's story about as I was bringing awareness about what service dogs for veterans are.
Nash is an incredible human being.
Isn't he an amazing kid
and wise beyond his years? And when we first heard of him doing those quarter auctions, my partner with my not-for-profit and I ran down to the Legion in Port Stanley, and he did a quick little video with him, and he just says to Nash, like, why is it that you're raising this money for service dogs for veterans? And this kid just doesn't skip a beat and just says it's because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
like just like that.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of great causes out there, but this is the one that he picked up. And, you know, I had put him in for a King's Coronation Medal because of how impressed.
Oh, wow.
And he wasn't successful, but,
yeah.
you know, that's how impressed I've always been at his contributions to such an underrepresented fundraising initiative, which is service dogs for veterans.
His passion and his drive, when I met him, I was so blown away.
Yeah,
to see somebody that young, you know, so caring.
Yeah.
To want to do something like this, and his love for dogs too. I mean, but $30,000 is a lot of money.
Yes.
Who would ever thought that one dog would cost that?
Yeah, it takes 2 years to train them, and that is one of the biggest. You know, it's a prolonged expense. You know, the dogs that you typically are going to choose to do the work, they themselves are not inexpensive. You know, labs, golden retrievers, some shepherds. You know, we through our organization have paid, you know, up to $8,000 for dogs. Like, we're not getting a break from the breeders, and to do it right, you need to have you ought to have first rights. So you pay extra to go in and try to assess the temperament of the dogs.
Okay.
So you're almost up to 10 grand already.
Wow.
And you just have a puppy. Now you have vet bills, and the trainers that are doing this are, you know, doing it for next to nothing by the end of the day.
Yeah.
If you value their time, which I do. It's an art. Wow. To produce a good service dog.
Where does Riggs come from?
So the organization where I originally got Riggs no longer exists.
Okay.
But he's certified now through Courageous Companions, which is a charity out of Alberta.
Oh.
Yeah, that services veterans. So they came all the way to Ontario to certify him.
So they come to you?
They did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they do a little road show every once in a while to recertify their service dogs across Canada.
If something happened right now that you were being triggered by something, and you start to react to something, Riggs senses it. What is he sensing? So what do you go through before he picks up on something?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a fallacy that people just assume that dogs can smell everything.
Okay.
Right? Now there's some, I believe there's evidence out there to suggest that you could train dogs to smell cortisol or heightened levels of the stress hormone. But that isn't necessarily what they're trained to do. They're trained to react to behavior or presented or exhibited behavior. So if I was having a panic attack, I'll likely display certain behavior.
Okay.
Like, and let's say it's tapping, just for argument's sake, constant tapping on my wherever that is, or the bouncing of the foot. Train the dog to react to that behavior, reward them constantly for that reaction, and then when you do it unconsciously or part of your symptom, they are keyed to that behavior and react to it. Okay. They don't necessarily know right away what they're
doing. They think it's
a game.
I get a treat.
Yeah, it's a bit of a game.
Yeah. Okay.
But eventually, you know, as the bond increases, I'm sure they start to understand the difference between the game and work.
Okay.
Right. That's one example. That's outside of just training them to stand behind you to block, or to stand in between your legs or beside you. That's just all positional stuff. But the behavior interruption is done through training to the behavior, not because they're necessarily sensing a change in your chemical makeup.
All right.
Right.
Okay. What would Riggs, what has he done in your life right now that has literally saved it for you? What has there been a moment where he's like literally he saved you?
I mean, there's been many moments. When I had first gone through that exercise of trying to get him, which, you know, took a long time on its own, I had migrated from, you know, that shame of, you know, wanting to die by suicide with my firearm to I'm just, I'll make it, look like an accident. I'll drive in front of a truck or, lose control and end up dead somehow. And, that would remove some of the shame from my family and from me. So it got to a point where if I was having some of those bad days where my wife would ask if I was leaving the house, if Riggs was with me, because he became my suicide intervention. I would never hurt myself with him in the car because then he himself would be injured or killed. Yeah. And I would never do that. So it was every day, anywhere I went. Part of it was that cross, that still crosses my mind sometimes. It became a thought pattern, but with him in the car, I would never do it. There's been certainly times where I've been very, very low that I felt that the only friend I had in the world was this dog, right? And that was worth living for. It wasn't true, right? But that's how it felt.
Okay.
Yeah.
If Riggs could talk,
yeah,
what do you think he'd say about your journey between him and you?
Yeah. What would he say? Probably that I didn't give him enough treats. No, I mean, this dog, he has had quite the experience. We've had the opportunity as a team to do some pretty incredible things, go to some really neat places.
Yeah.
Being at the Ontario Police College and training, I don't even know how many thousands of recruits. I can do the math, but I'd be wrong. Now they're impacted by us, and we took opportunity every time we could to educate on mental health and mental wellness. I would hope that he would say thank you. I would hope that he feels loved and blessed, and that we did it together.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right on. Now, your time at the OPC, you're going around talking to all these new recruits, all the classes that are coming through, and they've been some pretty big classes lately.
Lately, yes.
I was just at the very last graduation. A friend of mine was graduating in there, and I actually had the honor of being a member of the St. Thomas Police Pipes and Drums band. We played for that graduation, and so it was great to be there for my friend and also be there for as for the band. For you to do that after all the years of being in police work, okay, even military, but of service, this is actually so important what you're doing now, because you're actually helping all of these people individually that are coming into their new careers that are going to be dealing with thousands of people. So for every one of them is thousands of interactions down the road that that you can be helping them deal with.
And my hope is that the interaction that these young officers, and when I say young officers, I mean youth in their career, that if they haven't had the experience already through their own life, that the interaction between Riggs and I has at least given them a window into mental health, a window into empathy and compassion, an understanding that stigma doesn't have to be a thing anymore when it comes to the trials of the job. Because it's not, being a first responder or soldier, it's not a matter of if there's going to be something that happens to you that is going to change something about you. It's just when. And if you are not educated on that, if you don't understand that, and you don't know how to prioritize your wellness before those moments happen, when they happen, it's going to make it that much more difficult for you to crawl up from underneath it.
Okay.
And that's my hope, is that the interaction that those recruits have had with Riggs and myself has given them at least something to fall back on when it comes to themselves.
Okay.
And the public. So yes, the interactions with the public, I hope, will be increased by having interaction with someone like us. But I really do, if we look after the officers, if their wellness is there, they're going to look after the public. And that's maybe part of where we're falling down right now.
Does OPC invite you over there to do that, or is that something you had to arrange with somebody to, as part of their training, get you in a class or presentation in the hall? How did that come about? How do you get over there?
So this isn't current. Like, they haven't had me back.
Yeah, it's
right.
It's been a while now.
This is when I was there between 2018 and 2022.
Okay.
I would take every opportunity I could, depending on what lesson I was teaching, to interject a little bit about wellness and mental health themselves or the public. But I was invited at the end of their intake. I was invited to do a 45-minute presentation, a little bit on my story, a little bit on PTSD, the effects of the brain, and then the journey from the bang of when it happened, when I realized that I had the injury, to where I was currently in my journey.
Okay.
Right. So I did have that platform. I did have that opportunity to speak to all of them.